Blog Talk Radio.
Contra Radio Network, Preparedness Radio, with your host, John Jeffers.
And good evening. It's July the 2nd, 2017. I'm John Jeffers, your host here at Contra Radio Network. I know. Thank you. Thank you very much. You know, tonight, before we get started, there's a couple things I want to make an announcement on. One of them is simply this. You know, the COI that I've talked about so often is completed, it's finished, it's ready to go. Now, I combined it with a unit status board. I know some of you have heard about this, and you're still not sure about it. So, I got visual aids this time, so that way you can see what I'm talking about. Now, on the CEOI, I talked about challenge and response. And what I want to do is I'm going to give you a look at it. This is a sample of it. This is what it looks like. It's a CEOI sample authentication table. Does that look right? Can you read that? Maybe not. Okay, so you got your days listed here, your challenges. For example, you want to make sure you got to the people you're sending a message to has the right, you got the right person, right? Because you may not know who you're talking to. So you issue a COI authentication challenge. So the challenge would be DTX, David Tango X-ray. All right? The response would be, what do we got there? John, Mary, 2. So basically you'd say, authenticate David Tango X-ray, and the responding person, if they have the correct COI, such as that, would say, oh, John, Mary, 2, JM2. I don't know if I can get that in there. There we go. There, see, and that's the response code. That's a sample copy. This is not the actual authentication table that I actually made. All right? Second of all, I talked about the unit status. I just copied a bit of it. I don't want to give it all away because, you know, what I do is I want to sell this thing so I can keep the show going. And when I'm talking about the unit status board, is that as a group commander, a prepper group leader, Patriot group leader, however you want to rank your unit, your group, that's up to you. I don't care. However, I do care, and most prepper groups, you know, the larger they get, you got to, you know, the commander's got to be able to keep track, as his staff does, about who's doing what, where, who's in charge of what, and what are they doing? Where are they? How do I get a hold of them? Well, a unit status board would look like something like this. Well, let's get it up there. Dun, 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 dun. There we go. See, and that's what it looks like. You have your unit, who the commander is, the headquarters primary radio frequency, and the alternate frequency should your primary frequency become compromised. So, unfortunately, this is just a small piece of it. There's a whole bunch more to it. Now, if you want to get the unit board, what I'm going to do is this. I put it on an Excel spreadsheet. Much easier to use and create. All right? What I'll do is I'll download it to a thumb drive and mail it to you. With the unit status board, you will get the CEOI authentication table. I did 180 days of authentication tables. You are not restricted to using day one. For example, let's say you decide you want to, I don't know how many patrols or whatever you're going to send out there. I don't know. That's for each individual commander, leader, whatever, to do that. It's up to them to figure out, But there's 180 days. So let's say you do a challenge authentication, and use day one. But then you decide, oh, good God, I got to send out another patrol. So you send out team 2. But you got to get hold of them. You can use the day 2 challenge authentication code. You never, ever want to use the same challenge authentication code twice. Because if you're being monitored, well, then if they're smart, and it's better to assume they're smart than they're stupid, all right? So if they're smart, they're writing it down. By the way, your radio communication officer should be doing the same thing. He should be writing down everything he hears. What frequency, date, time, and what's being said. What was said. But anyways, so with that, I'll put, so you need to have an access to an Excel, Microsoft Excel, you have that. Then you could download it. You could take it to FedEx, Kinko's, and I've set it up so that way it's on the largest piece of paper that they make. So that way, if that doesn't work, and I'm thinking there's no reason why I shouldn't, but perhaps we might need it larger. I got a friend I got to get a hold of and see what manufacturer he's using. And we'll put big laminate, get some grease pencils. Once you get your unit of status board, get it laminated. You get the grease pencils, and you can fill in the information, goes on the wall. Group commander comes into the command post, looks around. He doesn't have to ask anybody. All that information should be updated right there on the board. He can just look at it, get the information he wants, done. So it's important to keep that stuff updated constantly. All right. So for $10, get a hold of me. Oh, patreon.com for you subscribers and you new people. You like the show, you like what you're seeing, you like the new changes were made, that's great. I'm asking for $2 a month. Patreon.com. Patreon.com. $2 a month. That's what I'm asking. $2. $2. I want my $2. All right. We got the chat room open, and if you'd like to call in, which, we got a lot to cover tonight, our number is 516-453-9389. A lot of people having problems with their internet connection, so a lot of times they'll call in. They don't want to say anything. They just want to be able to listen, and you get a better signal that way if you want to listen through your cell phone or whatnot. All right. So tonight, I want to talk to you about perimeter security techniques. One of the things that you're going to do, whether you're a group commander, you're going to be sending people out on a perimeter security detail. Or you may be one of the grunts, which is fine. Too often in prepper and patriot groups, everybody wants to be the general. No. And of course, we have too many people out there that think they're the next Patton. No. So you're going to be out there. If you're a grunt, you're out there on perimeter security. And let's say Team 1 is actually out there doing the security. But Team 2 is coming in from patrol or scavenger hunt, whatever. They're coming in. You have to make sure, Team 1 people, if you're on the perimeter and they're coming in through your checkpoint, you have to be sure that you don't have anybody coming through your perimeter checkpoint who's not supposed to be. It is up to you, the people on the checkpoints, to determine whether they pass through your checkpoint into your secure area of operations or they do not. This is important. And we're going to talk about that right now. So I found this. I finally found it. I knew what it, I was trained in it when I was with the military police many decades ago. And I found it from Prepography. Prepography? The Art and Study of Self-Reliance is perfect. This is what I've been looking for, and I wanted to be able to get it out there to you, especially if you new people out there, or you're thinking about forming a group, or you have a group, you just don't know what to do with them yet. You'll figure that out. That's not a problem. So this is where I found it, and this is what's called the challenge and password. This is important, and I just explained to you why. So here's the scenario. About 6 weeks ago, it finally happened. The currency collapsed, and since then, the security situation has rapidly deteriorated. Over the weeks, since the precipitating event, crime has begun to run rampant as people grow more and more desperate to fill their and their families' bellies. Now, at some point, the majority of the police officers realized that their entire paycheck couldn't even buy their family a single loaf of bread, and every minute they spent protecting your family was one that put their own family at risk. Now, the few police that are reporting for duty can't adequately keep the security situation from spiraling out of control. Now, you've been up for the last 20 hours warning strangers away from your home and watching for a couple of friends you're expecting to come shelter with you and your family. That's you are consolidating your unit or your group. You sure hope they arrive soon because you're not sure you can stay awake much longer, and the moon will set, dropping the neighborhood into total darkness now that the power is out. Finally, you see the outline of 3 people headed directly for your home. Your friends must have picked up another on the way. It sure looks like Jim and Carol walking in, and all you need to do is confirm it is their voices, so you call out, "Who's there?" and receive the expected reply, "It's me." With great relief, you step out from your hide and walk up to meet 3 people that you suddenly realize are strangers as they grab you and take away your rifle. This is where challenge and password comes in. Now, it's a technique that's been used by military forces to recognize friendly forces in hostile environments or while guarding resources. While the need for such a technique when encouraging a soldier from an adjacent unit that you haven't met before is apparent, this technique will assist members in recognizing friendlies in low light or no light situations. As a prepper, you may believe that you will always recognize those you should let in. In reality, it's very easy for a tired and hopeful mind to see what you hope or expect to see when the reality is something else entirely, even in good lighting. So challenge and password and the other recognition techniques we're going to explore today are meant to double check what your eyes and ears are telling you to ensure that those really are friendlies walking up to your position. Let's talk about challenge and password, shall we? Okay. Hey, Brian, he's on the live Facebook video feed. Oh, and before I forget, since we've dropped the show to an hour, our listenership has gone up. We have more completions of the show. This is what I was looking for. It's going well. So let's get back to it. I always like to keep my listeners informed of what's going on. So, challenge and password is nothing more than a sign and countersign that lets 2 parties recognize each other as friendlies. Here's how it works, all right? 1. The stationary party sees or hears the traveling party walking up on his or her position and observes until the other party is vulnerable in the open and within voice range, and then calls out halt. Just loud enough to be heard by that party and hopefully no one else. This command should be called out from a position of safety where you can cover the other party with any weapons you have. If you think that this might be your party or friendlies that know the procedure, continue. Otherwise, send them on their way. Now, at this point, the other party takes one of several actions that telegraph their intentions, but most likely results are that they run, they fight, or they halt. Number 2, assuming that the other party halts, you command the party to lower their weapons or take other actions as required to ensure that your safety before directing one member to advance and be recognized. Now, during this procedure, this entire procedure, make sure to continually observe the other party and your surroundings for your own and your family or your group's safety. Additionally, make sure to use a clear, commanding voice when giving these instructions. Do not show weakness or hesitancy. Number 3, once the indicated person has advanced far enough that you can easily talk with him or her in a low tone that doesn't carry to hidden watchers, you once again command halt. All right? So you've told them to halt. They've stopped. You ask the lead person or the first person to advance and be recognized. They come up. They come within talking distance. Low talker. Like on Seinfeld, be a low talker. You tell them to halt. Now, number 4, at this point, you present the challenge in a low voice. For example, we'll use a challenge thrifty and a password flower. As mentioned, in a low voice, you clearly challenge thrifty and wait for the password flower. Any response but flower indicates that this is not your party and should be sent on their way. A proper response allows you to bring that person into your checkpoint, into your area of your secure area of operations. Now this is important, for you team leaders out there, and you're on patrol and you're coming back in and you're challenged, You had better know every person. You need to know every person's name that's in your team. And I'm talking of not just first names, but first name, last name. All right? And there's a reason for it. If there are multiple members, number 5, if there are multiple members of the party entering your area, then have that person you have vetted individually identify and bring in each person to make sure there are no strap hangers. What that is, let's say, for example, Team 2's been on patrol, they're tired, they're wet, whatever. They've been out, they're wiped out. Physically, they're just tired. Sometime during the walk, another person jumps in the back of the patrol line. That's a strap hanger. He comes up, and your team leader doesn't know who that person is. You better be ready to take quick corrective action. Immediate action. All right? Now note, a challenge and password should be 2 words that are unrelated and form an unusual phrase, as in you'd be unlikely to use them together. Thrifty Flower is a great example of how a challenge and password should work. But, say, World Series, Puddle Jumper, or Fig Newtons are examples of poor choices because there is a chance that an unknown party could actually guess the proper password response. Now, something else you need to be aware of. Challenge and password combinations should be changed on a set schedule once usage becomes commonplace and necessary. Prepper group leaders determine the schedule based on the security situation in your area. You're with me now, right? Got it? We understand that? Hey, Green Sale's in there at the Facebook Live video feed here during the show. Green Sale, I enjoyed my trip and my visit to Mississippi immensely. Very much so. Let's talk about the running password. Now, as you can guess by the description of the challenge and password procedure above, it takes a while to do it right. If you're being chased and need to get to safety quickly, you can use the running password. That is, there is no time for subtleties. When you're running for your life, so you can run across the security perimeter, you shout the running password to make sure that the friendlies know you're coming and know that you're the good guys and that you're being chased by bad guys. Prepare for incoming. Needless to say, if you are on the security perimeter at the checkpoint, you need to make sure you keep an eye out for tailgaters following and mimicking your guy yelling the running password. Additionally, make sure to change the running password as soon as it's used. Let's talk about other recognition codes, shall we? Now, we've discussed the use of both challenge and password and running passwords. Let's explore some other potential recognition codes for use in a security compromised environment. Let's talk about noise or knock signals. As a matter of fact, it's time for me. Today we're drinking Bye. Why? Because 5 calories, 1 gram of sugar. I can use that. That's good stuff. All right. In Matthew Bracken's near-future novel, Enemies Foreign and Domestic, the protagonist gain entry into the bad guy's rec room by mimicking the distinctive knock that the bad guys are using as a recognition code to gain entry. Needless to say, loudly knocking out shave and a haircut wasn't very effective for the bad guys. However, you can foresee certain situations where a noise or knock code would be an appropriate recognition signal. 2 places I can imagine a knock code being used or being useful are if you are forced to shelter in an apartment or an industrial area. In an apartment where multiple groups and families have access to common areas like hallways, your security perimeter by necessity may have to be your own 4 walls and a door. In an industrial area, you might also have to limit your security perimeter to the 4 walls if there's not a more appropriate perimeter like a security fence or you have limited personnel to secure your building. Hey, Banj. The Malinois just came in. He wants to listen also. Even he knows this is important information. So here's how it works. The party outside knocks in 4-knock increments by prior arrangement. Think of this as announcing the outside party's presence. Number 2. Now the inside party responds with 2 to 5 knocks, randomly chosen. Let's say 2 knocks in our example. This is the challenge. Now the outside party responds with 1 less knock than the inside party used. For instance, if the inside party knocked 3 times, then the outside party responds with 3, 1, 2 knocks. Got it? Does it make sense? All right. So that's the response. If you want to make sure that the inside party is as expected, you could add another response by adding or subtracting 1 knock from the previous response. Make sense? Okay. Now, it's important to keep in mind while telegraphing your location by knocking that most walls of virtually every door are permeable to shots fired of sufficient caliber. Think about that. How about panels or flags? An interesting recognition system that we tested while I was in the 82nd Airborne Division. We use them for reconstitution after a jump were panels. Now, by using placards or flags, you can signal a simple message like friendlies here, danger, meet here, or meet at X. Panels used in this manner do lack the challenge and response mechanism of the other techniques we're discussing, but may serve a useful purpose, and maritime military units have historically used flags for sign and countersign at sea. Sign and countersign is the same as a challenge and password, but you're on the water, not the land. How about lights? 1 if by land, 2 if by sea may be familiar from you from Henry Wadsworth Longfellow's poem, Paul Revere's Ride, and demonstrates the successful use of lights for signaling. But lights present problems when used as recognition codes because, well, they could be seen so well over great distances at night. If you do determine that you must use lights for recognition codes, I recommend using a mathematical code as described in knock signals above, or perhaps use a distinctive colored lenses to make mimicry less likely or successful. We're going to take a time out. True story here. True story. During the Vietnam conflict, the war there in the Southeast Asia area, many times the North Vietnamese army would listen in on American radio, especially during, shall we say, evacs. They're pulling troops out of a landing zone or whatever, or they're getting their ass. The Americans, they're falling back. They need some air cover. What they would do is this. They would listen in. And, of course, the pilot would make contact. They'd authenticate with the land units. And they say, okay, mark out with yellow smoke. So Americans pop yellow smoke. That way the pilot knows, don't fire into this area. We got American troops here. We got friendlies here. So, and of course, they tell them we're, whatever the direction they need to hit the enemy, hit the NVA. Well, the NVA got smart. What they did was they'd listen in, not necessarily to talk to the American units, but to listen in. So when the pilot says, pop yellow smoke, the Americans would pop yellow smoke, and the NVA would pop yellow smoke also. Now the pilot has 2 areas with yellow smoke. Don't know which one is the actual Americans. Who popped it first may not be the Americans, could be the NVA. Who knows? The pilot doesn't know. He doesn't shoot. He doesn't fire because he might be blue on blue. So this is what they did. This is why they're talking about the color, the colored lenses and whatnot. This is what triggered this. So what happened was, again, American unit was getting hammered back. Then he called for air cover. The choppers are coming in. And the pilot calls out, pop yellow smoke. Oh, no, I'm sorry. No, what it was, the American said, I'll pop yellow smoke to the pilot. Pilot acknowledges it. NVA hears it. They pop yellow smoke. The Americans waited until the NVA popped their yellow smoke. The Americans said, I'm popping red, hit the yellow. And they did. My point is this. You got to be careful about the mimicry of the lights. That's what it's all about. Second of all, let's talk about duress codes. What else we got? John Thiel is in. Welcome. And let's see. Chuck has joined us. He can't join the show tonight, but that's all right. We're good with that. It's all right. Duress codes. An interesting addendum and safety mechanism that could be added to any of the techniques discussed above is the addition of a duress code. Now, a duress code signals to the other party that the person signaling is under duress and being forced to make the contact under threat. A duress code signals the other party to be wary and set a trap for the bad actors forcing the hand of the signaler. A duress code could be a word, a phrase, a series of knocks, body language, a series of knocks, or a particular color of light. Duress codes could also be outgoing to warn a party coming in to a presumed safe area and could be signaled by a light in a particular window, a flag, or panel, or some other noticeable change in the environment that will only have meaning to those parties read into the code. No. We've used the concept of duress code with all my daughters, whereby they could call us and utter an innocuous code phrase. We would drop everything and come retrieve them from whatever mischief their friends had in mind. And my daughters could extract themselves from unsavory or dangerous situations without losing face, and they could blame their desertion on their pesky parents. Okay. That was from the author. The conclusion is this. Now look. Listed above are some of the considerations and mechanisms of practical implementation of a challenge and password system. Proper implementation of a challenge and password system may not only save your life, but may also save the lives of those closest to you. Take some time to think about how you would implement such a system now so that you could rapidly transition to using a system if you needed one. Better yet, discuss the system with family or group and practice its use. Just remember, as you develop your system, there's no need to completely reinvent the wheel. If you need to take these lessons from those worked for military forces for thousands of years, and there you go. Those are some techniques that you need to have because, like I said, if you're on the security checkpoint, you're being trusted with the security of your area of operations. Very important stuff you need to remember. All right. Chuck from Nebraska. Welcome, my friends in the chat room. Chuck, in case you don't know, we're also doing a video feed on Facebook, the CRN like page, not the group page, the like page. You can join us there if you like, or you can stay right here in the chat room with Porky Wheel, also in Northern Ireland. Thank you, buddy. Glad you two are here. So that's what challenge and password is for preppers. And again, think of the COI. Remember the COI that we talked about? Remember that? Yep, let me throw over this way. The COI we talked about, it's the same thing. It's a challenge response system. But the COI is for radio communications. All right? That's why I developed 180 days worth of challenge and response codes. All right. Let me think. It's time for us to do some drawing. We are going to draw out a radio net. I want you to see how it looks. Now, you can do it any way you want. I'm going to show you how it looks like on paper. You determine however you want to use it. So, piece of paper and something to write with, preferably not your blood, because that soaks in it and it makes it very difficult to read what you're doing. I myself have a Sharpie, clean piece of paper. You know, we've talked about COIs, radio nets, and whatnot. It's very important for you to understand about radio nets. What do radio nets do? Radio nets are for all organizations, from the top on down. So, once you get your piece of paper, I want you to put it so it's a landscape orientation. Landscape orientation. Now, on the top right corner, draw a circle. Should look like that. Okay? Where is it? Right there. Draw a circle. You're going to make that circle, we're going to designate as headquarters, HQ. Write HQ under the circle. In the middle of the paper, we're going to draw another circle, slightly larger. So we draw a slightly larger circle. So you should have something that looks like this. Looks like that. Yep, let me go this way. Looks like that. We're going to label that circle as, for the sake of argument, 11th APG. So you can write 11th APG in the middle of the circle. On the outside of the circle, I want you to make a circle on top of it. So, for example, if the top of the page is considered north, that'd be the top of the paper. So we make and you know what? We could do that. So a smaller circle, like that. We will do one on the right side of the circle, at the bottom of the big circle, and to the left of the big circle. So it should look more like this. So it should look like that, all right? Got it? Okay. Now, each one of those circles, we are going to mark, at the top one, we'll mark 1, circle to the right is 2, circle on the bottom is 3, circle to the left is 4. It looks like this. Yes, got it? All right. Now, 1, 2, 3, 4. So we'll, for the sake of argument, those circles are the teams for the prepper group, the 11th APG, in the local area. You can divide your teams by how many people you want. I don't care whether you use 3, 4, 12, I don't care. That's up to you, prepper group leaders and Patriot group leaders. So, so you have that. And what you're going to do is your radio net will look like this. Let's draw an arrow from 11th APG to headquarters. Looks like this. I think, you guys see it? Yeah, okay. Looks like that. And then we make small arrows, just like the one we drew, to each circle. So it looks like this. Capiche? Looks something like that. All right. What we're going to do now is, if you have a unit status board, which looks like this. Remember, I made this for you guys, so you can buy the unit status boards along with 180 days of COI authentication codes. Oops, wrong one. Where'd it go? Where'd it go? Where'd it go? Here we go. All for $10. Remember, your unit status board looks like that. Yeah. So you are going to. So the headquarters will have a frequency of. Let's make this easy. So the headquarters has a primary frequency of 156.000. That's the primary frequency for headquarters unit. And their alternate is 156.100. So you're going to look. So you should look just like this. Where'd it go? Up this way. See, headquarters primary frequency 156.000, and then you're going to have the alternate frequency of 156.100. These are. I'm just doing it for demonstrative purposes only, so don't get freaked out. All right. So the 11th APG, to contact headquarters, you have to get on 156.000. That's how headquarters will contact the 11th APG as well. Now, the 11th APG has a primary, because remember, you're making a radio net. So let's say their primary is 156.200, and they have an alternate of 156.300. That's the 11th APG. So you write that down here. See? All right. Now, each of those teams, 1, 2, 3, 4, those circles that circle the 11th APG, each one of those will have an alternate frequency that the 11th APG can contact them on. So let's say Team 1, of course, will have a primary of 156.400 and an alternate of 156.500. You see what I'm saying? This is all for demonstrative. Let's make it easy. Team 2 will have a primary of 156.600, an alternate of 156.700. Team 3, a primary of 157.800, an alternate of, oh, what did I do? Oh, that's wrong. There you go, 156.800, 156. No, let's do this one. I'll make this one, the alternate for Team 3 will be 158.000, and primary for Team 4 will be 158.100, alternate of 158.200. Now this is what your radio net will look like. It's easier to show it on paper than it is for me to try to describe it on the radio. I thought, why don't I just draw it out and you can see it. My point is this. On your radio nets, hey, there's Scott Warner. I believe he's the warlord of Rhode Island. So here we're looking at, so you got your 11th APG. They have their primary of 156.500. Is that right? No, 200, and alternate of 155.300. 156.300, okay. So, with that said, all right. So they got a primary and an alternate. The teams, if the 11th APG wants to contact Team 2, they call them on this frequency. If this frequency has been compromised, they'll call them on that alternate. Okay? You follow me? Does it make sense? Yes? So, Team 2, on the other hand, has 156.600, an alternate of 156.700. Same thing. The 11th APG calls Team 2 on their own frequency. Each team has their own primary and alternative frequency. Make sense to you? Yes? No? Okay. So, with that said, does it make sense looking at a radio net now? Okay? You got your headquarters unit, which would be like a regional. Let's say the Illinois State Militia is the headquarters unit. All right? I'm just, for purposes of this. Believe it or not, there is an Illinois State Militia, which is recognized by the state. So anyways, got the headquarters unit. They want to talk to the APG. They call them on 156.000. 11th APG has their own communications officer, and he should have this down. By the way, if you have a unit status board, guess what? You can write it all down here. All that you could put on the unit status board with a grease pencil. All right? Does it make sense? You with me on this? Cool. All right. In the meantime, so Team 4 needs to contact 11th APG. Got a contact? We're at our destination. They want to tell them, we're in Fox Lake. There's nothing left of the town. There's nothing to scavenge. 11th APG isn't sure who's talking. They issue a what? Come on, you guys are smart. You know what they're going to do. They're going to do a COI authentication challenge. 11th APG hears it. They go, wait a minute, who is this? And so the 11th APG says, Team 4, authenticate. Where is it? Authenticate David Tom X-Ray. Team 4 will authenticate John Mary 2. Make sense? That way, 11th APG knows that the information they just heard from Team 4 is actually Team 4 reporting in that Fox Lake is useless, there's nothing there. Got it? Okay. But wait a minute, Team 3 calls in. Oh, Team 3's in Round Lake Beach, and they say, we've got some resistance here. You know, this is what's going on in town. And perhaps this time, Team 3 doesn't need a response from the 11th APG. So what they will do is this. Again, using this little gem. This has already been used once. Day 1's already been used once. It's been used once. Don't use it again. Security violation. They will use day 2. So let's say 11th APG, this is Team 3. I authenticate Oscar, Kilo, Tango. No need to respond. I authenticate Oscar, Kilo, Tango. Round Lake Beach is a no-go, meaning some resistance. Don't need to respond. Done. 11th APG can look at this, say, yep, you know what, they authenticated their information with the challenge. We know it's them, otherwise they wouldn't be able to do it. Now, you team leaders out there are going to need to know part of the COI. That's why it's so important that team leaders and maybe the assistant team leader are the only ones with the COI, and they do not stand next to each other on patrol. No, 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 that's bad. Because if they both get capped, guess what? You've lost your COI, or you can't make contact because the COI authentication tables are where you left these dead guys back there and couldn't get to them. So, that's the point of the COI. Again, you've got the unit status board, you're going to have all kinds of stuff. For example, on the part of the unit status board I did show you, it has the date, the commander, who the commander is, who the lieutenant commander is, the time. Every time there's a date, there should time like 12:00. It should be 0001 hours. This information, and then you'll have information such as headquarters primary frequency, alternate frequency, headquarters call sign. Call signs. And then you'd have underneath that team 1, 2, 3, 4 separate headings. Again, under each heading of teams, underneath you'll have the location of the unit. You'll have their primary frequency, their alternate frequency. You understand where I'm going with it, right? And each team has that. In grease pencil, it's written up there. Da, 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 da. And then underneath, you'll have, what do I want to call it? Combat support. So under that, under combat support, on another heading, you would have logistics, or supply, medical, I don't know, whatever else you want to put on there. That, names of people, who's in charge of it that day. Don't need to have alternate frequencies. They're in your area of operations. But you need to know who's doing what. Underneath that are notes, a space for notes. You could write whatever you want. We could write down two of 68 people reported sick. Team 1, you could has 10 actives. Team 2 has 8. Team 3 has 14 people who can actually perform missions. Then you have your COI. Now, along with the unit board status, I'm going to give you instructions on how it's to be used in case you forget. Because, let's face it, not everybody listens to my show. They should, but they don't. So what we'll do is this. Your communications officer, you can teach them. Give you the instructions, how to show it, how it works. All that good stuff. Also, with each one, I highlighted every other row, so it's easier to keep track. And when you get done using it, boink, boink, cross it out. Remember this. It would be advisable that once you use, let's say you're a maniac and you send out all your teams on patrol for the same day and everybody calls in doing authentication challenges, which is fine, and you go through day 1 through day 10, using up each authentication challenge. That's okay. Just remember, at the end of the day, sit down, have your communication, sit down, and do 10 more. Keep adding to it. Keep rolling to it. And make sure they're all completely random. You understand? Make sense? Yes? We're good? Okay. All right. What do we got after this? Let me see. Chuck says he'll do Facebook. That's all right. Porky Will says his Facebook feed has went blank. No, it's okay now. All right. Okay. Right. Very good, Porky Will. And that's another thing too. Every team should have a radio operator with them. Team 1, 2, 3, 4. If you want, it depends on how much control you want. You can give each team the other team's primary frequency and ultimate frequency. Bear in mind, if the COI gets lost, it gets interrupted, destroyed, whatever. If you can't verify that the COI that the teams have been thoroughly destroyed, it can't be read. That's fine. But if it can be read, you're going to have to redo not only your COI, but you have to reassign new frequencies. That has to take place, and it's advisable to do so after the use. In fact, Porky will be one of the first to explain it. Would you agree with it? Porky Will says Tim says hi to everyone, but he can't make it on. He's not feeling well after the operation. I'm not surprised, but he's a good guy just the same. So our best wishes go out to Tim. Hope you feel better, buddy. That's Tim in North Carolina. All right. Steve Packer has joined the video feed here at CRN. He missed the good parts. That's okay, because it's video. You can watch it over again. So that's how you work a COI, what the unit status board is. Now you decided that a unit status board with complete COI, 180 days worth of authorizations is what you need, is what you want. $10. Send it to me. I will send back, like I said, I'm going to put it on a thumb drive. You have to have Excel in order to read it. Take it to your favorite printer. Have them blow it up as big as you want. Make sure it's laminated afterwards, because you're going to need to sit there with grease pencils and do their thing. You know what I'm saying? It is time for another drink. I've been talking for how long? Let me see. Oh, yeah. And I got 11 minutes left. But like I said, one of the things I wanted to remind you is this. Since we've gone to the hour format, I know it's not a lot. A lot of you guys like the 2 hours and all that. But some people just aren't digging it. I get it. All right? Not a big deal. However, like I said, a lot of people listen to the podcast, and they're going back and forth to work. They could easily fit these episodes now in their travel. Our completion rate has gone higher. We've got more people listening again. But not as many as we once had. We need to have more. If you're late in joining, this is what I'm drinking. Yummy, yummy, yummy. Love it. Bye, bye, bye. All right. Enough. So, Julie's show. Do not go looking for Julie's show. She's lost somewhere in Idaho, I guess. I don't know. But she's making her move from Washington State and the Cascade Mountains to the southeast of the United States. She's somewhere on the road. Dawn's trying to get a hold of her. I don't know if she's successful or not. By the way, programming note, for those of you that are listening to the Contra Dawn show on Friday night, it's now at 7 p.m. Central, 9 Pacific. 7 Central, 9 Pacific. A much better move. If you listen to Dawn's last 2 shows, she sounds so much calmer, less chaos going on around her. Much better show. She gets thumbs up. Nice job. Nice change. It works. So if you're looking for Dawn's show at 6, don't wait an hour. 7 o'clock, it'll be fine. So, We only got a few more minutes left in this episode of Perimeter Patrol Techniques and Radio Nets. I hope that my drawing didn't drive you guys crazy, but you understand what a radio net looks like. Sometimes it's hard to picture it in your head. You're going, what's a radio? You want to do what? When you see it on paper, it makes it a little bit more easier to make the transition and to understand how a radio net is. I hope the challenge and password authentication techniques for your perimeter patrols during your area in your areas of operation and checkpoints proves valuable. Practice with it, please. Practice with it, and if you have to replay the whole episode again. It's not that long. Take notes on it because there's a lot of information I threw that was in there. You probably weren't. You probably heard it. You might forget it again. So listen to it again. Take some notes. Whatever you got to do, that helps. And then go to your group and practice with it. It's that simple. Now, I'm guessing Chuck will be calling in, I hope, Wednesday night. He needs to give us a status update on the 11th APG and what's going on there. He doesn't know it yet until now, which I just told him, you have to start giving updates on 11th APG so we can start getting people put together. If you're hearing this, and you want to give the group, contact me. ContraRadio@live.com, ContraRadio@live.com. I will do an all call. Doing just a blank all call to that person in your area, your state. Say I live in Western North Carolina and I'd like to join a prepper group. Okay. Do an all call. We'll have them contact us, and then what I'll do, and I did this with the Warlord of Rhode Island, hook him up with some guys who are also looking to form a prepper group. Have them make their contacts. So we'll do it that way. If you need help, you got a question, maybe something's not working out right, and you need some different ideas on how to do a prepper group, get a hold of me, ContraRadio@live.com, or you can call in during the radio show, especially on Wednesday nights. You can call in. Hopefully Chuck will be there. Chuck has some great ideas on how to do it, and we'll brainstorm, and we'll see if we can't get you an answer. I think that's really important for you to have. Anything else? Can I think of anything else? No. Oh, no, I can't think of anything else either at this time. All right. I hope. Now, did you all enjoy the show? Did you find it helpful and useful? Did you? Very good. Very good. Yes. That's exactly right. Very good information. That's all we ever have here. Good information. So, on Wednesday night, I'll be back. 8 o'clock. Central, 8 p.m. Central. Pass the word around. Let the people know where you get your information. The more people we have, the better it is. We got smart people. I want to keep it that way, if at all possible. So, in the meantime, I want to say this to my prepper and patriot friends. Stay safe, stay alert, and stay vigilant. We are going to continue doing shows for group operations now. As I've told you before, we've been doing these, why you must prep, what you prep for. You know what? I got over 300 shows. If you didn't get it, you're new, feel free. blogtalkradio.com/ContraRadio Network. Have at it. It's time that we start moving the show up to the next level. Next level is this. We're going to start talking about operations, how to do stuff. Most of you know why you're prepping. Most of you get it. What you don't get is because sometimes people don't always talk about actually doing operations, how to do things. I'm trying to fill that void. I want you to be safe. I want you to be vigilant. I want you to be alert and ready to consolidate your group and move. If you have to move, do what you have to do to stay safe. But do it with intelligence. That's the key. Be smart. Assume the other guy's smarter, so that way you don't look so dumb. All right. Thank you for joining me tonight on a Sunday night. I appreciate it. Have a safe 4th. Continue on celebrating the greatest nation on the face of the planet. I appreciate it. and you should appreciate living in this fine country. Oh, and for those of you that don't like the United States, you can just kiss my ass on your way out the door. Thank you very much. Elvis has left the building. Good night.